So I decided to make a more detailed tutorial on my Photoshop setup and explain to you just the way I paint and some of the tools I use. So normally I just use the preset US paper, which is 8.5 by 11 inches and 300 dpi. When I make a new image, works pretty well. If I'm going to be making a larger print, like 11 by 14 inches, then I'll just make that the size of the document. What else? Okay, and I use the RGB color palette to get that to come up. You go to Window, Color, or click F6. And to make sure it's RGB, you just click this button here and make sure it's at RGB sliders. And I have 3 tabs here: History, Layers, and Brushes. You can pull these out, and yeah, I just have these 3 and I close the rest because I don't really use anything else. Pretty much just use History, Layers, and Brushes. The brush I'm using is a 24 pixel spatter brush. It's right here. It's a Photoshop default brush, and the only dynamic I have is the opacity is set to pen pressure and the smoothing is on. The airbrush option is off. My opacity is 100%. My flow is 100%. What else? Okay, so when I paint, okay, let's say I'm working on this piece, what I like to do is I usually work on, I guess, 3 layers maximum. So I'll create a new layer just to paint on, and then when I'm happy with what I've done, I merge it down, and that's just, you know, in case I screw up, then yeah, and not all is lost. So yeah, so I usually paint on a layer just above, and then it's pretty much the same as painting on one layer. I just don't like to screw up that much. And then what I do is I also create I have an adjustment layer. So I click a new adjustment layer, which is this button right here, and I go to hue saturation, and I turn the saturation completely down to -100, and this way I can paint in color. And then when I want to check the value, I just click that, visible, see the value, see if it looks okay. If it does, I just click it off and keep painting. I don't paint on this layer, I just use it, I just have it there so I can easily check the values. I also set up a shortcut key so I can flip the canvas horizontal really quick, and the way I do that is go to Window and Actions, and then this will pop up, and then I click New Action. Let's say I want to make a flip canvas vertical. You can just name it whatever you want, and the function key for my flip canvas horizontal is F2, so I will use F3, and then record, and then I will go to image, rotate canvas, flip canvas vertical, and then stop. And now that just saved it, so every time I press F3 it will flip the canvas vertical. And yeah, so I just did the same thing with F2, flip the canvas horizontal, and I use that a lot. It's really good for checking proportions. Whenever you flip the image, it gives your eyes a chance to see your picture in a new light. Another thing I do, especially when I paint backgrounds, I press F twice, and that brings me into full screen, and then I can also move the image, and really helps when you're zoomed in. You can just, you know, color here or there, because normally if you're just in a regular window, or even if you just press F once, you can't move the document too much, like gets stuck. So yeah, press F twice, even 3 times, amazing, and then you can move it more. What else? If I have room, sometimes I keep a reference image here that I look from, but if I have room, I also like to go to Window, Arrange, and then at the bottom it says New Window, and I click that, and then shrink that, and then I paint, and it lets me see a smaller version of what I'm doing. So if I'm really zoomed in, then I can still see a far view of what I'm doing, so I don't get confused, or I don't screw up too much. I get a good idea of what I'm doing, and I can paint on this too. That's why it's better than using Navigator. Yeah, so oh, I really screwed this person up. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I do. Not too much fancy stuff going on. I think I mentioned before that I did this soft light trick, and I don't do that anymore. Pretty much no tricks, just 100% opacity and 100% flow. And after a while, well, with practice, you can control your pen pressure pretty well, good enough so that even at 100% I can, and even with pure black, I can make a gray or go really dark. So it just takes a bit of practice. Yeah, so I hope you learned something. If you did, great. If not, well, you really know a lot with Photoshop. Good for you.